Good morning.
Good morning.
We'd like to ask you a few questions. If you could start by telling us your name,
I'm Donald Gill Parker.
okay? And when you were in the military, what branch were you?
I was in the infantry.
Okay. And what is your connection to Southwest Virginia? How'd you come to be here?
How did I come to be to Southwest Virginia? Well, I was getting ready to retire up in Pennsylvania, and I had a mother-in-law down here. Her husband had died, and she was living alone in an apartment, and she was elderly. So my wife and I figured we'd go down and take care of her.
How and why did you enter the military?
Well, I was drafted.
Okay.
I was in college, and I didn't want to leave particularly. I got an invitation I couldn't resist. Otherwise, I'd have been arrested. At my exam, there was several doctors all in the way, and they had to go around. When I come to the last one, he says, "Why do you want in the army so badly?" And I said, I don't really. I says, I'm in college. I'd like to stay there. And I had a condition he thought would keep me out, and he took me back to the colonel in charge and said this man shouldn't be in the army. He said, "Oh, we'll take a chance." They needed warm bodies.
Could you talk about the job that you did while you were in the military?
Well, at first I was in training in Arkansas, I think it was, yeah, Arkansas. And then we went overseas. We left out of Boston. We went up all the way into Glasgow, Scotland, and just debarked there. And took a train back down into the southern, I think it was Portsmouth, someplace down there in England. And we did some more training. Lived in a tent on a golf course. Couldn't dig a tent around our tent because that would have hurt the grass in the golf course. So we slept in the water that soaked in, and we laid in the grass on a little straw-filled mattress cover. And oh, how that hay in there, or straw, soaked up all that water, and you just laid in it. Wasn't really too much fun. But we went in to combat. We got in the troop ships and went most of the way, and then they threw a cargo net over the side, and the landing craft come up beside it, and we climbed down the cargo net and into the landing craft. When we got very close to Utah Beach, there was no real beach. It was just there was a tiny bit of grass right there, and then a hill that we went up. And the first guys there, they had trouble getting up. They put that thing down, and let me tell the story, because it hurts a little bit. And they threw the front down of the landing craft, and we hopped into the water. And the guy right in front of me turned the wrong way, and he was going out toward the ocean. But he realized he was going to turn around, but he had this, I don't know how he got or where he put all the stuff he had on his back, but it wasn't a GI issue by any means. But he fell forward, face down in the water, and with all that weight in his back, he couldn't get up. So well, you don't run in water, but I got as fast as I could behind him. Of course, I was going the wrong way. I wasn't realizing everybody was starting to follow me. We were all going out to the ocean. So some officer put a carbine at my face and says, "Get away from him." And I says, "He'll drown." He says, "That's not your concern." And he did drown too. That's what bothers me. They've just given me a minute. I could have pointed and the guys would have turned around and gone the other way. But he didn't give me any time at all. He just said, "Get out of there." And I had to get. And we landed and we climbed up over the hill. From there, we pulled out our bayonets and we stabbed into the grass looking for pressure bombs that would go off if Patton's tanks went over them. And the tanks were pulling up inch by inch behind us. They wanted to go in the worst kind of way. But we got through that anyway, and then we went on in and went through a field. That was our first real part of combat because all of a sudden some planes came down. We looked up and started a wave. They were our planes. But the next thing we knew, they turned the machine guns on us. It seems they were going by some kind of landmarkers that they had put out. Somebody put out, scouts or whatever. As the Germans caught on and they moved them. So we were in the wrong place. And a few of our guys didn't get very far. I'll put it that way and leave it right there. Yeah, we went on. We captured some towns. And got to the hill above Cherbourg. And the Germans immediately opened up with 88, that they were blowing up everything all around us. And Patton hadn't let us dig in. So that after Patton left, I thought he left. Face down, that hand I was trying to balance, with this hand I had the pick shovel, those adjustable things that go either way. And I had it in a pick position that I was trying to dig a little hole that I could get out of the way a little bit. And lo and behold, all of a sudden a big boot come down across this hand. And I didn't look up at all. I just took this thing and I was going like this. And my staff sergeant did a flying tackle. We met near and he knocked me down. And when he got me up, I looked up. I'm standing there just like this and laughing his head off with Patton, General Patton. That was my introduction to that guy. But at least he didn't turn me in and get me thrown out of the army or put in the brig or something. He just stood there like this, laughing his head off. We put on a good show for him. A little later there, then the shelling continued and it got worse. And all of a sudden, see, I was backwards and I went back to digging. I didn't care what he thought because I knew what was coming at me. And I started digging and I had my feet back toward where the direction the stuff was coming. And I was this way trying to drill a hole so I'd have a foxhole and I'd be turned around facing what was coming in. And I didn't get to dig the rest of the hole. I had shrapnel explode there and it tore up both of my feet. And I laid there, yelled for a medic, and medic was too busy. I don't know if he's getting somebody else or whether he just didn't want to come up there, because as soon as I got hit, they yelled retreat. Everybody got up and walked out, except Don just stayed there. And finally my captain, and I don't know how, I think it was God that helped him, because there was no way he could have come up through that mess, and no way he could have got me back out of there. But I looked at him. I don't know what was wrong with me, but I wasn't thinking straight. I looked at him, and instead of saying, "Oh, so good, thank you," I says, "You're a lousy chess player." That was how I greeted him. And he says, "Well, why is that?" I says, "You don't trade a bishop for a pawn." And he laughs. He picked me up and put me on his shoulder. We both laughed all the way out of there. Stuff exploding all over the place. Nothing hit us. I only know one explanation for that, and that was the power of the Holy Spirit. I was in the hospital. I was in the hospital almost a full year. Part of it was because when I got to the point where I could walk a little bit, you had to choose, and I had to choose either small motors or audiovisual. And I had been trained a little bit in audiovisual by a pastor who had been a chaplain, and before that, he had grabbed me and he had taken me around, and I helped him show movies in different places. And I was familiar with the projectors and how they worked, how to want to film into it and such, and the opticons and so forth. And so the guy that was running it got out on points, and instead of finding another one to replace it, they just kept me there. And I did that until I got out. And I went home, and my path was guided, I would say, because the first week I registered back in the college. They had to take you back in the college you were in. And I registered back, and the next week I was in class. If you want, I wouldn't mind telling you one story. That one night in the middle of the night, they got us all up, and we started walking. We didn't know where we was going, what we were supposed to do, what was happening, really. We were just marching around. It was pitch black. We were going up over a hill most of the time, and through real high weeds. And those weeds were hitting us, and we were getting scratched hands and faces. One of them, I think the guy in front of me, and he's holding like this and this, and of course so am I, and everybody behind me, no free hands to do anything. And this one, I think he kicked the thing, and it was a real tall one. It cut right through. I threw the pistols were about that long. They just ripped in there, tore my leg, and I could feel it bleeding. And I just automatically, I let go for a second to rub my leg, and I reached out. They must have had a quick turn all of a sudden, because they were gone, and we were stuck. Myself and 6 other men. We were the very end of it all. And there was a corporal in the back. The rest of us were all privates. I told the next guy, he said, "Send the corporal up here." So they passed the word back, the corporal come up. I says, "Well, I'm afraid I broke contact. You are the highest ranking officer. Take over." He looked at me and he says, "Parker, you got us into this mess. Now you get us out." And that's not my way. Let's just say I'm modest. That's a lot nicer than what I would have to say. And it was the Holy Spirit took over, because the first thing I says was, "Okay, I'll take the point. Follow me." And off I went. I had no idea where I was going, where I was supposed to go, or why. And we walked and we walked and we walked, and finally I found suddenly I saw near the front of me this outpost, a German outpost, 7 of us, well-armed outpost, and we're going up. Well, we stopped, but the corporal planted himself right behind me. I says, I had them with the rifles drawn and bayonets attached. And I says, swing arms. He says, you're going to get us all killed. Yeah, maybe. And then I said, now, there's 6 of you. I want you to walk 2 by 2. I want you to start telling jokes and laughing and laughing. Look back once in a while like you're expecting. You got a whole battalion behind you. You're just walking in. And they started that way. And as we got closer, I says, why don't you settle down and stay here? I'll go in. Me, the scared one. I'll go in. And you watch. If they kill me, then you take off the other direction. And they said, we will. So I walked in. I just walked up to the guy in English. And it turned out these were not Germans. They were Polish that was forced into the army. So I really wasn't in any danger at all, but I didn't know that. And I says to the guys outside, I says, I'll be back to talk with you. I'm going in there. And they were partly stunned too. They were, what stupid idiot would do something like this? And so I walked in. All of a sudden, call me in. They all surrendered just like that. So I told my other guys to come in. They all come in. We took over the rifles and whatever other weapons they had. And just sat there and waited for, I knew eventually that I could figure out what the captain had been doing, and he was going to come in eventually. So I said, we'll wait for him. And we sat there for a while, and I was talking to the leader as best I could. He knew a little English. I knew a little tiny bit of French and some German. And with all mixed up languages, we communicated to some extent. But the words he said in English, go America, go America, go America. And I was trying to tell him, you might go America, but you might be in a prison camp here in France too. But then I heard a rifle shot, and I recognized it as an American M1 rifle. So another thing that I wouldn't have done, I plunged out that door, went straight in the direction of the rifle, and I yelled. And I didn't know who it was even, but I just said, Captain, come on in. I captured this place that night. He comes in, and he starts to scream at me. What do you think you are? You're not supposed to capture this place. I'm supposed to capture this place. Oh, he gave me a lecture. But then he finally took over and he says, okay, you go get with your men. I don't know what happened then after that. I was back with my own guys, and that, it's a Bronze Star. Which one it is, I guess it's
just,
apparently it's, oh yeah, here it is.
mm-hmm.
Look that one. One of these is a German thing, and I don't explain that. That's German. That was on his uniform. I don't explain that.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't need it anymore. That's the Purple Heart, and that's the combat infantryman.
Mm-hmm. Well, we certainly wish you a very happy 100th birthday coming up this Sunday. And we thank you so much for giving us a few minutes of your time this morning.
Well, we thank you, and thank you for coming.